Breaking news, NASA splashdown. Crew 9 astronauts return to Earth after being stranded in space for more than 9 months. See the drama unfolding live.
Budget uncertainty. We are live at the Wake County School Board as they weigh how to balance federal education cuts and their own financial shortfalls that will impact your students next year.
A big warm-up is on the way. Who could climb into the 80s? And then our next weather maker will cool us off and bring us rain. I'll time it all out.
What a compelling scene tonight off the coast of Florida. 2 astronauts who were stranded in space for months have finally touched down back here on Earth. Thank you for being here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty. Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore. They were supposed to be in space for a week. They ended up staying up there for 9 months. Brian Schrader has been tracking this whole thing today from the WRAL Live Center. It was an amazing thing to see play out, Brian.
It really was. And just in the past 10 minutes, the astronauts have emerged from the capsule. This is brand new video just in. The first astronaut you see leaving the capsule is going to be Sonny Williams, 59 years old. She set a record while she was in space for the most time spent spacewalking over a career for female astronauts. You can see that, of course, they've been in space in zero gravity for 9 months. They need a little help in the gravity of the Earth, and you see them getting wheeled away there, but very happy, waving. And then this is Butch Wilmore, 62 years old. He was the last one to emerge from the capsule this evening. And again, he's being helped onto that mobility device. He stands up there and he waves, very happy to be back home now. I want to show you the video from the splashdown, which happened just before 6 o'clock. You can see the capsule hitting the water there in the Gulf just off the Florida coast. 2 others on board that capsule from a later crew also returned. Everybody safe and sound. We're expecting to get a briefing from NASA coming up in about 30 minutes or so. And of course, look for details about that coming up on WRAL.com through the evening and on our news at 10 and 11.
Imagine when they reunite with family. How amazing that must be. Thank you, Brian. The Wake County School District has a lot on its plate. 4 new schools, more students, inflation, and now a big federal funding gap. The superintendent is proposing a budget that accounts for all of this, and he's asking for more money from the county. WRAL's Aaron Thomas live outside of the Wake Board of Education at the offices there in Cary. Aaron, he's asking for a lot. What will it pay for, though?
Yeah, so of course, Dan, there's certainly a lot of numbers to crunch here on the federal, state, and local levels, but let's go ahead and just focus on the local level specifically. So Superintendent Robert Taylor is requesting $742.9 million from the county commission. Just to put that number in perspective, this is more than $40 million than the school district, the state's largest school district, received as a whole just last year. And when we crunch these numbers again and we talk about what the bulk of some of these expenditures will go towards, that will go towards employee pay, making sure that instructional staff and other teachers across the district are paid adequately, as well as funding these 4 new schools that are set to open later this fall. The district admits that it's facing some financial challenges. Just in the past 2 weeks, WRAL reported how this school district announced a hiring freeze. And back in February, the district lost $5 million in federal dollars as the U.S. Department of Education undergoes its restructuring. Superintendent Taylor says that these requests and adjustments are the district's way of being financially responsible, with there being many unknowns when it comes to funding on the federal and state levels.
Tonight, you will hear about tough choices due to limited resources. But know and understand this: student success remains at the heart of everything that we do. Tonight's presentation is about laying out the realities we face and the steps needed to uphold the high standards that all of our families expect.
And of course, this is a process that has many moving parts. So there will be a series of public comment sessions for people who have stake here, have children in the school district that can weigh in before the school district finally makes its final proposal on May 15th, and they'll then submit that to the county commission. Aaron Thomas, WRAL News, live in Cary.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Hey, if you're just turning into the news tonight, now let's get you caught up on some of the other big headlines from today. Here are the 5 things you should know right now. North Carolina lawmakers say they've reached a deal on $500 million in Helene relief aid. Disagreements over how to spend that money held up the bill for weeks. Today, though, State House reps approved a new version, reaching a deal with the Senate leaders. Governor Josh Stein has said he intends to sign it. This evening, crews wrapped up the search for a 7-year-old who has been missing since this time yesterday. Sky 5 flew over the scene in Franklin County where the child went missing on the Tar River. Crews have been using boats and drones and robots for this mission, and tomorrow morning crews do plan to return to the scene, sadly with cadaver dogs. A man faces charges connected to this video here, a home break-in caught on camera. We showed you this video of the robbery yesterday. The Harnett County Sheriff's Office charged this man, 26-year-old Frederick Berryman Jr. Investigators believe he and an unknown woman, also seen in this video, robbed that homeowner at gunpoint. Deputies are working to identify that other suspect, the woman there. There is a new leader of the pack, Kevin Howell. How about that name for somebody at NC State? He will be the NC State chancellor. The very next, the announcement was what a homecoming for him. He's an alum, former student body president, and longtime employee. He takes over for Randy Woodson on May 5th. The price of eggs has finally gone down. We can celebrate. Last Friday, the wholesale price for a dozen eggs was $4.83. That is down from $8.58 at the end of last month. The reason? Well, a few things. Demand is down. People haven't been buying eggs, really. It could be a few weeks before you notice the price drop in the grocery store. Tonight, we're going to talk about a big update and a story at the center of a WRAL documentary about gun safety in North Carolina. It was about 8-year-old Genesis Dockery. The 8-year-old was shot and killed by her babysitter's 11-year-old son. And today, the Dockery family filed a lawsuit. Now, this lawsuit targets Crystal Michael and her father, Thomas Michael, who owned the gun. Fayetteville police say Michael's 11-year-old son took the gun from his grandfather's safe and was showing it to 8-year-old Genesis when she was shot and killed.
We stand here today to own up to our human responsibility, our parental responsibility, to ask for justice and transparency for the life, the light, and the advocacy of Genesis Dockery.
So this suit claiming wrongful death and negligence was filed in Cumberland County today. WRAL documentary reporter and producer Kristen Severance joining us now. Spent a lot of time with the Dockery family while producing the documentary Unsafe about kids dying from guns in North Carolina. Kristen's joining us now. This happened almost 2 years ago in 2023. Were you surprised at all that this lawsuit was filed?
Now, right, 2 years later, I have to say, no, I personally was not, because, the family always wanted someone to be held accountable. Now, you may remember the 11-year-old, was charged with involuntary manslaughter, and we're blurring his face because he's a minor. But that was a picture of him on social media. We'll explain the backstory of what he's doing there in just a minute. But, no charges were ever filed against his mother, the babysitter who was watching Genesis, and no charges were ever filed against the grandfather, Fawn Dockery, so Genesis's father, and Genesis's mother always felt like the adults should have faced charges.
Now, I know that there is a law about safely storing a weapon here in North Carolina. Can you talk a little bit about how that plays into this?
Yes, there is a law. It's supposed to punish gun owners who don't secure their weapons properly, right? The law allows for misdemeanor charges against someone who stores a gun in a way that a minor can access it and then use it. And according, to the babysitter, Crystal Michael, the gun was in her father's safe, so the grandfather of the 11-year-old, but her son was still able to get it. Crystal Michael had no comment when I reached out to her today about the lawsuit, but in our previous interview for the documentary, she said this tragedy never would have happened if her father would have changed the code from the generic one that the safe came with. Here is a small portion of our conversation about everything that happened that day.
If I could go back and put myself in front of that bullet instead of hitting her, I would.
How did your son, how did the 11-year-old have a gun?
Yeah, same question I said. I didn't know it was in my house, and my father should have changed his gun safe code, period. Never should have been left the same. It should have been changed.
So your son stole the gun from your father's safe. He knew the code.
He said he figured the code out. Don't know. I wasn't there.
And so did you know the gun was here when Fawn dropped off his daughters?
No, absolutely not. I would never allow guns in my house. I don't even allow my kids to play with BB guns.
I asked about the picture of her 11-year-old son online with what looks like a gun.
No, I never knew they were existed. And the pictures of my son holding a gun was a BB gun that my father had gotten for my son, and I had taken it from him.
So tell me about your dad, that part of it. When it comes to holding someone accountable, like, who do you think should be held accountable?
I mean, he should have changed the safe code, period. I don't care if he's 70 years old. I don't care if he's 30 years old. He is a gun owner. He knows to change a code so nobody will know it. I honestly believe it would not have happened if he would have changed his code. And one of the biggest things I've had to learn is don't ever think it can happen to you, even if you don't have a gun in your home, because I don't, and it did happen.
And you know, Dan, she allowed us to record that conversation, but we agreed not to show her face. That's
such a difficult conversation to have. It's
right.
Such a heartbreaking story for so many people involved, especially the Dockery family. Mm-hmm. This lawsuit was filed today. What's next? What happens now?
So yes, lawsuit was filed. I do want to mention the grandfather. We did reach out to him. He said no comment. But this is what happens. Lawsuits are filed, and then we have to see how they make their way through the court system. The Dockerys have also worked with lawmakers. There's a bill moving through the legislature right now that punishes gun owners who don't report a gun stolen or missing within 48 hours. Now, if the gun is used in a felony or misdemeanor, the person who failed to report it missing would be charged with the same crime as the person who committed the crime. So they're really trying to get people, if a gun is stolen, to report it.
Well, this sort of thing touches so many lives,
right.
Not just the one we're profiling here tonight.
Yes.
But of course, we know you'll stay on top of it for us.
Yes, absolutely.
Kristen, thank you.
You bet.
So you can watch Unsafe, North Carolina Kids Dying from Gun Violence on WRAL.com. I do recommend you go check it out. It's right under the documentary section. So West Virginia has something in common with Duke and NC State. Beef with UNC. They think their school should be playing tonight, not the Tar Heels. Are they right? And is there something else going on here that's a little bigger than basketball? Kat?
And dirty rain is on the way. A combination of wildfire smoke and rain will probably make your car a bit of a mess. I'll break down when it gets here. Coming up.
So the UNC Tar Heels play in the NCAA tournament in just a couple of hours, but a lot of people don't think they should be there, like, the population of West Virginia. West Virginia's governor went so far as to request an investigation into the NCAA. He blames UNC's athletic director, who happens to sit on the selection committee, for rigging this vote. And this is a drama that could actually go from on the court to in the court. Let's talk to WRAL investigative sports reporter Brian Murphy about this with a trip to Murph's Turf. Murph, hey, full disclosure, I'm from West Virginia, so I'm going to try and stay impartial here. When the governor of the state came out the other day, that stood out to me as being unique. We always hear schools complain when one team gets into the tournament and another team doesn't. But to have the governor come out and say the things he did, were you as shocked as I was?
I was surprised that he was so direct and so critical of UNC athletic director Bubba Cunningham. Normally you expect him to blast the NCAA, it's unfair, but for him to directly criticize the chairman of the committee and say that maybe his financial incentives in his contract played a role in UNC getting in, I thought that maybe crossed the line, but I was surprised by that.
His argument is this: where there's smoke, there's fire type thing. So let's talk about the smoke. All of the analysts who kind of predict who's going to be in the tournament all had WVU in. They didn't see themselves on the bubble. They saw themselves as a guarantee, and then it turns out they're not. And they're replaced by a team that was on the bubble, who just so happens to have an athletic director who is in a key position to decide who gets in and who doesn't.
Yeah, it looks terrible, right? If you're a West Virginia fan, you can clearly understand why they would be upset by this. I think the first part you mentioned is really important. They didn't go into Sunday thinking, hey, we might make it, we might not. They were making their plans. They thought they were in already. And then the second part, when the chairman of the selection committee is the athletic director at the last school in, of course it's going to raise red flags. Now, Bubba Cunningham says they did nothing wrong. There are policies and procedures. He left the room when it was time to discuss UNC. He also says that he didn't vote on UNC at all. That's a collection of 12 members of this committee who make the decision. And so were they all doing him a solid? Why North Carolina? Why not West Virginia? A lot of the metrics point to North Carolina just being slightly better than West Virginia. The one that all fans want to talk about are these quad one wins. North Carolina had a miserable record. West Virginia had a great record. But West Virginia's resume certainly had blemishes.
You can use metrics all day long to make arguments in one direction or another. And we talk about the way fans are reacting to all this, and it comes from the heart. Fans love their teams. They want to see them go to the tournament. But it's about a lot more than fandom. There's something that has really been creeping more and more into college sports in the past decade or more, and it's money. And money plays a huge part in the tournament. If you get in, you get paid, and if you win, you get paid, and it's a big deal for these schools.
And the marketability of making the tournament, being on CBS, making a deep run. I mean, what was that worth to North Carolina State last year? What it's worth to every team is every game you play in is worth $2 million to your conference over 6 years. So if you make a deep run, that could be millions of dollars coming back to your university. So you understand at a time when every school is looking for money, why that might be an important fact.
Lastly, this investigation that the governor is calling for from West Virginia. Is there going to be an investigation? I know you're not a legal expert, but wow.
Yeah, to me, I don't think it's an investigation. I think it's a ploy to tell your constituents, hey, I'm on your side. I'm fighting against these blue bloods in North Carolina who have stolen our tournament spot. But we'll see if he files an injunction before the tournament starts.
Stop the whole thing.
Stop it. I need to be in.
I don't see that happening. All right. Thank you, Murph. Some drama. No drama in the forecast, though. Things are looking beautiful outside.
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. I actually booked a trip to Beaufort. I've been to Beaufort. I've never stayed there, but I look at this camera all the time in the Weather Center, and I was like, we gotta go. We gotta go. I mean, what a beautiful sunset out there tonight. Hope that I get to see some of the wild horses. I have seen them there before, and it was a pretty cool experience. Wednesday, tomorrow, it will be warm and windy. 80 degrees the high. A southwest wind is what's going to help temperatures really climb. We start out pretty coolly in the morning, 46 degrees at 8 a.m., but if you're headed to the playground, lunchtime and through the afternoon, it will be beautiful. A bit more cloud cover than we had out there today, so just keep that in mind. It's a lot of upper level cirrus clouds that will be moving in. But it's only a brief warm up, so enjoy it. Here's the setup. Today, we were still under the influence of this dip in the jet stream. We're kind of in that transition as that dip moves offshore. Tomorrow, we're situated right under this ridge of high pressure on the warm side of the jet stream. But then we see temperatures come crashing down again Thursday night, and that will come with a cold front that's likely to drop us down into the 30s again by Friday morning. With this front, we do have some rain on the way. No severe storms expected, but this may disrupt the school pickup line and the evening commute in terms of the afternoon and evening timing of the rain. May also make your car a bit of a mess. An interesting setup here. This system is bringing winter weather to many ski resorts right now, but as you head east, it's going to be picking up a lot of wildfire smoke from parts of the southern plains down into Texas. There could be 60-mile-an-hour winds with very dry air. There is an extreme wildfire risk in this region for tomorrow. And what happens is as it continues to move toward North Carolina, it's going to push in all that smoke with it. So when we see the rain here, it's probably going to be a pretty dusty, dirty rain. Remember a couple weeks ago, I think it was 2 Fridays ago, when your car was pretty dirty after even just a little bit of rain? That's probably going to be the case again on Thursday. So maybe wait until Friday to get your car wash done. 62 Friday's high, so the high temperatures cool off a bit. Not too bad. It's really the lows when you'll notice that we're down to 38 Friday morning. We'll watch for some patchy frost. And then over the weekend, I lowered rain chances down to 20% Saturday. We could be back in the 70s briefly early next week. Dan.
All right, thank you, Kat. We're going to close out with a heck of a story tonight. On this day in North Carolina history, an FBI sting operation recovered our state's copy of the Bill of Rights. Yes, that actually happened, like a Nick Cage movie or something. It's our one last thing after the break. Our one last thing. Today marks a pretty bizarre anniversary in our state's history. Today marks 22 years since an FBI sting operation returned North Carolina's copy of the Bill of Rights. This sounds kind of insane, but this is something that actually happened, and not all that long ago. In 2003, the copy was put up for sale, and FBI agents posed as prospective buyers, arranging a meeting with the sellers, bringing a $4 million check to this meeting. Then once the document was revealed, the agents seized it. Now, you might be wondering, why the heck did this guy have a copy of the Bill of Rights in the first place? Well, back when this all went down, WRAL's Scott Mason got to the bottom of things. Here's a quick clip from that story.
North Carolina's concern with the Bill of Rights is higher than that of practically any other state.
But in 1865, North Carolina used its important records as wrapping paper.
The lighthouse prisms were wrapped in old North Carolina legislative records. And in those bundles was North Carolina's copy of the Bill of Rights.
The theory goes a Union soldier saw the document and took it, and for years it was missing, only recently surfacing. Now a couple of antique collectors from Connecticut claim it's theirs, while North Carolina says no, it's ours. The case is in court, a tangled tug of war, civil war.
It's really sad that that document went missing, but it's wonderful that it's been recovered.
Recovered and sealed in a safe, awaiting the seal of its fate. Scott Mason, WRAL News, Raleigh.
So those antique collectors were the ones who got duped by the FBI. Scott mentioned the court case. It lasted 5 years. In the end, North Carolina got their copy of the Bill of Rights. It went into the vault in the state archives, where it remains to this day. Thank you for making WRAL your choice for local news. Our next newscast is at 10 o'clock on Fox 50. We see you back here on WRAL tonight at 11. Have a great night.